Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar. The purpose of this session is to provide you with advice about what classes you should register for in your first semester if you're interested in majoring in one of the STEM fields, or if you're interested in preparing for a career in human or animal health. And my name is Paulette Bierza-Chudek. I'm one of the professors in the biology department. I'll be the host of this webinar, but I'm being supported by faculty from all of the different relevant departments and programs. And so they're here to answer all of your questions. I'm going to share my screen now and use some slides to support the presentation that I'm going to make. Okay, so as I said, my name is Professor Paulette Bierza-Chudek. I know that's a mouthful. My students tend to call me Dr. B or Professor B. And there are faculty here from relevant departments and programs. And we're also being joined by Katie McFadden, who's the Director of College Advising. And this session is going to be recorded and it'll be posted for you to view later or for others to view who weren't able to make this session. So what do I mean by STEM fields? Well, this session is for those students who are considering a major in any of these sequential majors: biochemistry, molecular biology, also known as BCMB, biology, chemistry, math, computer science, physics. We're also including environmental studies in this list because even though it's not technically a STEM field, it is a sequential field, and there's some overlap between those courses and some of these other courses. We're also going to cover what you should be taking if you want to be prepared for a postgrad program in medicine or the allied health fields, or if you're interested in a minor in neuroscience, earth system science, or health studies. The agenda for the session today is I'm going to start by providing basic information about each one of these majors and minors, and then I'm going to recommend the first semester coursework that you should take if you're interested in those fields, and with an eye toward keeping your options open so that you can have flexibility in your schedule later on. There's going to be lots of time for your questions. You can type your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and you can either do that during the presentation itself, which is going to last for about the first half of the time we have together, or afterwards, once the presentation is over. And what the supporting faculty will be doing is typing answers to your questions as I'm talking or afterwards. So I want to start by allowing those individuals to introduce themselves so you can see them and figure out who it is that's going to be answering your questions and get a preview for some of the faculty you'll be meeting in the fall. Nico, can you start us out? Please unmute yourself, say who you are and what your fields are.
Yeah, I'm Nico Learning. I am a chemistry professor here, but I'm also here in my role as director of the biochemistry and molecular biology program.
Thank you. Sharon?
Hi, my name is Sharon Torgo. I'm in the biology program or biology department. I'm also part of the BCMB program with Nico as well.
Barb?
Hi, I'm Barb Balco. I'm chair of the chemistry department, and I'll be teaching Gen Chem this semester.
And Liz?
Hi, I'm Liz Stanhope. I'm a mathematician. I'm the chair of mathematical sciences, so I'm happy to take questions about mathematics, statistics, and computer science.
Thank you. Beth?
Hi, I'm Beth Skalatar, and I'm in the physics department. I also will field questions about the 3-2 engineering program, and I also am a member of the biochemistry and molecular biology program.
Carolyn?
Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn Zook, and I'm the campus pre-health advisor. And I also am the associate director for the Center for Community and Global Health. And I teach for the health studies minor as well.
Thank you. Todd?
Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Watson. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist. I'm a professor in the psychology department, and I am one of the co-directors of the interdisciplinary neuroscience program.
Thank you, Todd. Did I miss anybody? Is that everyone? So you might notice that there's no one from environmental studies here. All of their faculty are at a conference this week, but I am an ecologist, which means I've got a lot of fingers in the environmental studies pie, so I'll be able to answer questions about environmental studies as well as about biology. Okay, so let's get started. And I just want to remind you once again that as any questions occur to you or if anything is unclear, please make sure you just type your question into the question and answer box. So some of you may already feel quite certain about what major you'd like to choose, but I hope that a very large number of you are still undecided because that will allow you to take advantage of learning about some new things. A STEM major might be just one of the many possibilities that you're considering. So if you're not sure what you want to choose right now, this is the right session for you because we're going to be focusing on how to make sure that you can keep those options open. STEM majors are sequential. The different courses build on each other. You have to complete course A before you can take course B. You have to finish course B before you can take course C, and so forth. And so while it's possible to complete most of all of these majors as a sophomore, if you start as a sophomore, it's far easier if you start with some of the introductory coursework in your first semester or your first 2 semesters. And if you do that, you have a lot more flexible schedule later on. And that flexibility can be very valuable in terms of planning where to take a semester overseas, or in terms of adding a minor, or even to double major. So even if you're not absolutely sure that you want to choose a STEM major, it makes a lot of sense to take some of the introductory courses your first year. If after being at Lewis and Clark for a semester or 2, you decide that you're really excited about art or English or econ, the STEM intro course that you took in your first semester will have fulfilled one of your general education requirements. So you will have learned something about your interest and fulfilled a requirement as well. So it's not like it would be a wasted semester in any sense. Now, before I start talking about the different individual programs, I want to explain something that relates to all of them. The introductory courses in all of these majors require you to have a certain level of quantitative proficiency in order to be successful in those courses. There are many ways that you can demonstrate this proficiency, and some of you have probably already done this. You may have done so by taking the AP Calculus AB or BC test and scoring a 4 or a 5. You may have taken the IB Mathematics Higher Level test and scored a 5 or a 6 or a 7. You may have taken a course in high school that was a college level course and that the registrar has deemed equivalent to this proficiency level. And if that's the case, be sure, if you haven't done so already, to send your scores to the registrar before registration begins, because that way WebAdvisor, the program that helps you register, will know that you've completed those prerequisites. Alternatively, you can demonstrate your quantitative proficiency by taking the online ALEX assessment, which I know many of you have already done. Most introductory STEM courses require you to earn a score of at least 53 on the ALEX test. Calculus requires you to earn a score of at least 75 on the ALEX test. Most students plan to take the ALEX test twice before they register for their courses. That's a really good idea. The first time is a good way to get familiar with the test and get a sense of what the questions are about and to find out just how rusty you've gotten since the last time you took a math class. Then after maybe you score where you want to be right away, which is great. But if not, all you need to do is spend a good amount of time, 8 to 12 hours, with the appropriate review module in ALEX, and then you can retake the test in the summertime. And what I've found is that many students who retake the test are able to increase their score by as much as 20 points. So review can be a really useful thing to do when you're thinking about the quantitative proficiency, a level you want to achieve. Make sure you leave yourself plenty of time to do that review if you need to before August 1st. And then it'll also take a day or two for those scores to appear in your record. So if you haven't yet taken the ALEX test for the first time and you haven't demonstrated quantitative proficiency through either of these other ways, then I recommend that you get started on that right away so that you've got time to do the review that you might need to do. In this webinar, I'm going to include coursework recommendations for all the different ALEX levels. not necessarily assuming that you will have gotten a 75 or a 53, but sort of covering all the bases. So now I'm going to turn to talking about the different majors one by one, and I'm going to remind the faculty who are here that when I get to your major, please write a note in the chat giving your contact information, just in case after this webinar is over, students might have additional questions that they want to direct to you. We're going to start with the BCMB major. If you're interested in biochemistry and molecular biology, the very most important course for you to take in your first semester is general chemistry, Chem 110. This sequence is 2 semesters long, and it's foundational for nearly all the rest of the courses in this major. And because the course is 2 semesters long, you cannot start it in the spring. It's only offered in the fall. So it is possible to delay it for a year and take it as a sophomore, but doing so will make it a little bit harder to plan a semester overseas or to have other kinds of flexibility. Other important intro courses for the BCMB major are Bio 110 and Math. But Chem 110 should be absolutely your first priority if BCMB is a major that you've got your eye on. The next series of slides suggests different first semester class schedules depending on the quantitative score that you earn. If your ALEX score is over 75, or if you have other kinds of credit that puts you at that level of quantitative proficiency, then it makes sense for you to take general chemistry, Chem 110 in the fall, and maybe couple that with Bio 110. In the spring, you'll then go on to the second semester of general chemistry and maybe add calculus to your schedule. And by the way, this Bio 110 and calculus don't have to be in these 2 semesters, they can be switched. Maybe you haven't achieved the 75 level, but you're over the 52 threshold. In that case, you should still take general chemistry, but you might want to take elementary functions, Math 115, to get ready for taking calculus. And again, combining that with continuing on in chemistry the second semester and combining that with Bio 110 is a very likely schedule. And once again, these 2 classes can be swapped in different semesters. Finally, if you learn that you really need to do some work on your quantitative proficiency and you haven't quite achieved the score, even after some review that will let you take chemistry or biology, then your best bet is to take quantitative reasoning 101 in the fall, along with some elective courses, and then to take elementary functions in the spring, along with the 1 semester long Bio 110 class. So those are the 3 different levels of quantitative proficiency you might be at, and recommendations for the BCMB major for all 3 of them. In this third scenario, you'd wait to start general chemistry until your sophomore year. Now let's move on to biology. What this table shows is your 8 semesters at Lewis and Clark as a timeline running from left to right. And so I want to show you what the biology major looks like. All prospective biology majors begin by taking Bio 110, Biological Investigations. It's a 1 semester course that can be taken in either semester of the first year, or some students even wait until they're sophomores because of complicated reasons. Once Bio 110 is completed, bio majors take Bio 201 and Bio 202 in either order. Since Bio 202 has a co-requisite of Chem 120, it can be started in the first year by students who begin chemistry the first year, or sometimes it waits until the sophomore year. In addition to those biology introductory courses, all bio majors take a year of general chemistry, and they do that either in their first year or in their second year. They also take a math course of one of these levels. And when they finish all of that, then they're ready to begin taking biology electives. Students take 6 biology electives. Those electives have as prerequisites all of this other coursework. So you can see how important it is to do that, to start doing that early on. So here's your first semester, and it really makes sense for students who are thinking in the biology direction to enroll in Biology 110. And in order to give yourself maximum flexibility, it also makes sense to begin Chem 110 at the same time. Okay. If you don't achieve the level of quantitative proficiency required for Bio 110 and Chem 110, which is an ALEX score of at least 53, then you should register for QR 101 and take Bio 110 in the spring and chemistry in your sophomore year. By starting early, you create the perfect opportunity in your junior year to take a semester overseas. And so that's one of the real perks of getting started on chemistry early. Then let's move on to the chemistry major. If you're planning a chemistry major, you should definitely take Chem 110 in the fall and combine it with a math course. What that math course should be depends on your quantitative reasoning level. The major requires 2 semesters of calculus, and so you want to make sure that you start getting that math done early. If your ALEX score is over 75, then it makes sense to combine Chem 110 with calculus and to take Calculus 1 in the fall and Calculus 2 in the spring. If you don't achieve over 75 on the ALEX test, but you do score above 53, then you can go ahead and still take general chemistry, but combine it with elementary functions so that you're ready to take Calculus 1 in the spring. Finally, if your ALEX score doesn't reach the 53 required for general chemistry, you'll have to put off chemistry till your sophomore year, and you can start with QR 101 and then move on to elementary functions so that you're ready to start chemistry in the fall of your sophomore year and can think about doing calculus at the same time. Now, notice that for the first 3 majors I've just talked about, all of them have a strong recommendation for starting chemistry in your first year fall. And I want to say a few words about registration for chemistry because there's some issues that tend to come up year after year. Chemistry requires you to register for 2 courses, a chemistry lecture course and a chemistry laboratory course. You're not enrolled in the course until you've got a spot both in a lecture section and in a laboratory section. It sometimes is the case that students can easily find themselves a spot in a lecture section that fits in their schedule, but they might discover that there are no open chemistry labs, all the seats have been taken, and they can't register for a chemistry lab. If this happens to you, do not panic. If you have problems registering, you should contact Barb Balco, who's here today. And what she does is coordinate moving students between sections to make sure that everyone can get in a lab section so that they can take chemistry. That moving students around between sections, though, doesn't happen until the semester begins and classes are already underway. Chemistry labs don't start until the second week of the semester. So if you're not officially registered in chemistry because you couldn't get into a lab section, make sure that you let Barb Balco know, and also make sure that you attend the first class so that you don't fall behind and miss any of the material, because you will get in. It just will take a little while to get that registration sorted out. Okay, now let's go on to environmental studies. I want to emphasize that at Lewis and Clark, we have an environmental studies program, not an environmental science program like some schools do. Environmental studies at Lewis and Clark is very interdisciplinary. It is the most interdisciplinary major on campus. It consists of 4 core courses shown here in blue, which are very sequential. It also consists of students take a wide variety of breadth courses that span the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. They also take a quantitative course and a course in Earth system science. That's a lot, and it's really complicated. So how do you know where to start if you think you want to do an environmental studies major? The environmental studies faculty recommend that you begin, I shouldn't say recommend. I should say that they suggest that one very good way to start exploring the environmental studies major is by enrolling in Introduction to Environmental Studies 160. It's a great way to see if you like the environmental studies major, and it's offered every semester, fall and spring. You might combine that course with a second course, and that second course could be one of the breadth courses or a prerequisite course for one of the breadth courses. So any of the ones that are shown here on the screen would be suitable courses to combine with Environmental Studies 160, or to take instead of Environmental Studies 160 and to put 160 off until your sophomore year. Typically, there's been a lot of overlap between students entering Lewis and Clark who think they might want to do an Environmental Studies major, or who think maybe they want to do a biology major because of an interest in ecology, conservation biology, and so forth. So there are a lot of people who tend to enter being sort of on the fence, not sure which direction they want to go. If you're in that situation, it makes a lot of sense to enroll in Environmental Studies 160 and Biology 110, and to maybe put chemistry off till your sophomore year. So that's one possibility. So the bottom line is take one or two courses that overlap with other fields that might interest you. And the Environmental Studies faculty have given their contact information right on this slide. Okay, next let's move on to math. Maybe you're interested in the math major. Not surprisingly, you should take a math class your first semester. Which one depends on the level of quantitative reasoning proficiency you're at. Depending on your ALEC score or your high school experience, you might start with Math 115, or it's possible that you've already fulfilled the equivalent of Math 115 in one of these ways that we've talked about a little bit earlier. And so if you already have credit for Math 115, you can go on to enroll in Math 131, Calculus 1, your first semester. Again, some of you might have credit that is equivalent to Calculus 1. And if that's the case, then you're ready to enroll in Calculus 2, Math 132. And after that, the major has a lot of different options for you to go in. But that would not be for your first semester, it would be for subsequent semesters. The math faculty is happy to advise you. Some of you might have background that might prepare you for higher level coursework right away. There is an academic fair during new student orientation, and there's always a math professor there who's able to answer your questions. And if it turns out that your background is suitable for moving out of a calculus course and into one of those higher level courses, there's always space in those courses. So that sort of movement during the first week of classes is very easy to do. What if computer science is your thing? Well, once again, the place to start is a math course or a computer science course that whose level depends on your level of quantitative reasoning. You might need to enroll in Math 115, depending on your score or what background you have. Or if you enter with credit for 115, then you can move on to Computer Science 171, the introductory computer science class. Some of you may already have the equivalent of Computer Science 171 under your belts, in which case you would move on to the next higher level, which is Computer Science 172. There are no spaces in Computer Science 172 this fall, but there will be in the spring. So that will be a course, if you're at that level and you've already completed the equivalent of Computer Science 171, which a few of you may be at, you'll need to wait till spring semester of the first year to take Computer Science 172. But there are other options that you can do during the fall, and you should talk to the math faculty about those. You should know that there's also a third major, which is a hybrid between computer science and math. And you can see the required courses there. And basically the recommendation for your first semester coursework is exactly the same as it would be for either the math or the computer science majors. Okay, next up is physics. So the physics curriculum is also very sequential. The required courses are listed here. When you arrange them as a four-year plan, you can see that Physics 151 and Calculus lay the foundation for everything that follows. So it makes sense to take those courses, Physics 151 and Math 131, the first semester. Like chemistry, the physics course is also 2 semesters long, so it has to be begun in the fall. Notice that this 4-year plan requires an ALEX score of at least 75 so that you're prepared to start with calculus. If you don't have that score, you should talk to Beth Skeletar, who's here, and find out what it makes sense for you to do your first semester instead while you're working on getting your quantitative skills up to speed. Lewis and Clark also has a 3-2 engineering program. This is a special program in which you spend only 3 years at Lewis and Clark and then move on to a master's program in engineering at a university, finishing that degree in 2 years. With only 3 years at Lewis and Clark, it's even more crucial to get started with Physics 151 and Math 131 right away. So now that covers all of the STEM majors and environmental studies. What if you're not sure what you want to major in, but you are sure that you want to be prepared to apply to med school or some other post-grad program in human or animal health, like vet school or physician's assistant school, dental school, pharmacy school, and so forth? Well, this graphic shows the timeline for the required courses for those kinds of programs. Typically, those programs require 3 year-long science courses, a year of general chem, a year of organic chem, and a year of physics, as well as coursework in psychology, sociology, and math or statistics. And you can see that in this graphic, the suggestion is to start on one of those year-long introductory sequences in the fall of your freshman year, maybe combine that with Psych 100 or SON 100, or maybe with a math class. By getting started on those courses early, you create space in your schedule to possibly go overseas, which for many of you is going to be quite important. So if this is your focus, plan to get a start on the year-long chemistry sequence this fall, maybe combining that with Bio 110 or a math class at an appropriate level. I said I would end with some information about 3 special minors. Lewis and Clark students don't need to declare a minor, but a minor can be a way to explore a secondary interest. And so this is more of a plug than a recommendation, because it actually isn't critical to begin any of these minors in your first semester. Minors don't require as many courses as majors do, and so there's a little bit more leeway in when you start to take those courses. Let's start with the minor in health studies. The health studies minor focuses on the social, psychological, and humanistic aspects of health and medicine and wellness. And the curriculum looks like this. In the minor, students take statistics, they take a course in either public health or health psychology, and then they take courses in these 3 areas: mechanisms of wellness and disease, psychological representations of wellness and disease, and global and cultural approaches. Finally, there's a capstone course. So notice that there's nothing that's sort of sitting in this fall semester as a super important thing to get done your first semester. This is something you can think a little bit about and wait to get started on. We also have a brand new major in Earth Systems Science, which is a broad scale look at the different forces, human and natural, shaping our planet. It's a very strongly geology-based minor. And this too is something that there's no need to get started on your first semester, but it's something that you might be interested in, especially if you're also interested in ecology, conservation, environmental studies, and so forth. Finally, we have a minor in neuroscience. That minor combines coursework in psychology, biology, and chemistry. Many of the courses that are required for the neuroscience minor have a prerequisite of Chem 110. So that year-long chemistry course is a great place to start if you're interested in the neuroscience minor. Bio 110 and Psych 100 are other good choices for the first year to get you started on that minor. And that's it. Before I invite you to type in more of your questions, let's do a quick recap. So if you're interested in BCMB, you should be thinking about enrolling in Chem 110 and either Bio 110 or the appropriate level of math class. If you're interested in biology, Bio 110 should be the most important course to enroll in, perhaps combined with Chem 110. If you're interested in chemistry, you should enroll in Chem 110 and a math course. If environmental studies, you have more options, but some of the good ones include Environmental Studies 160 and a breadth or a prerequisite course. If you're interested in math, then you should take a math course at the appropriate level. The same thing goes for computer science. If physics is your primary interest, Physics 151 and Math 131 are the place to start. That's true for the 3-2 engineering program as well. And if you're pre-health, it makes sense to enroll in Chem 110 and to add to that either Bio 110, Psych 100, a math class. If you're interested in one of these minors, you can wait until after the first semester. Finally, I want to offer a bit of advice about registration. If you need to take the ALEX assessment and you haven't started it yet, please don't delay, because you want to make sure you save enough time to take the test twice. And there's some built-in review that needs to happen between the first and second time. So that's something that you should be thinking about hard. Secondly, I want to say that some of these courses that we've been recommending tend to fill up kind of quickly. And there may not be space for everyone who wants to get in. To increase your chances of getting into one of these, you should make it your first choice class. That is, the courses I've listed here are the ones that tend to fill up. So Bio 110, Environmental Studies 160, Math 115, Psych 100, CS 171. Those, if you're interested in one of those courses, you should make it your first choice class. That is the one you register for on August 1st. That increases your chances of getting in. Of course, if you don't get in, you should waitlist yourself in that class because space might open up. And remember that all of those classes are offered in the spring as well as in the fall. You'll be adding your remaining classes on August 3rd. So we'll open the session up now for more of your questions. We're scheduled to go till 4 o'clock, so we've got plenty of time for questions. And while you're thinking about what you might want to ask, I want to put in a plug for a webinar that's going to take place immediately after this one. And that is a support session for students of color and first-generation students. It is at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time today, so that's just in about 25 minutes from now. And it is designed for to introduce first-generation new students and new students of color to the Office of Inclusion and Multicultural Engagement and all of the resources that they offer. The IME office is great. I was a first-generation college student, and I wish there had been something like this for me back then. So it definitely would have smoothed my path. So I really recommend that to you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I want to remind faculty that if you're seeing a lot of questions about kind of broad issues that you want to make sure that everybody hears about, instead of just typing the answer into the Q&A box, you should just unmute yourself and talk about that issue so that we all get a chance to hear what you've got to say. How are we doing on questions?
This is Liz over in math. I hope you don't mind if I jump in. I just want to make it clear that even if you haven't had an AP test or an advanced placement experience of any form, if you're confused about whether or not you should take Calc 1 or Calc 2, just talk to a math faculty member because your experience might well be enough to place you in a higher level course. So don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.
Katie, one of the questions in the Q&A is approximately how long does it take to take the ALEX test? Of course, that depends very much on individual students, but do you have any general experience that you can share with us?
Gosh, I was going to ask Liz.
None of us have ever taken it.
I did take the ALEX a couple years ago to try it all out. I seem, well, and Peter's on here too from NSO. Maybe you have a better memory. I want to say like within an hour. I mean, it doesn't take it. And in fact, I couldn't remember very much math when I took it, so it didn't take me very long. But
well, I recently saw the report from a student who had taken it, who wanted to show me what their level was at. And the report gave the start and end times, and it was about an hour.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's sort of a rough rule of thumb to set it.
Yes.
But make sure you don't schedule something too close to that hour, because you want to make sure that you've got enough time to answer all the questions at your leisure.
Yes, and what I will say too is on our advising website, on the sidebar, we have a little video library, and there is a short video about Alex, which is why I took it to make that short video. Kind of shows you what it looks like. So I can put that in the chat if somebody wants to check it out. It was just designed to let you see what it is before you do it.
Another one of the questions that's been submitted, I think I should answer, and that is, if one is interested in both biology and environmental studies, which class should be the first choice, Bio 110 or Environmental Studies 160? Because of course, both of them are on the list of courses that tend to fill up quickly. I would say that Bio 110 should be your first choice. And I say that because there are more different courses that use Bio 110 as a foundation than there are that use Environmental Studies 160 as a foundation. So taking Environmental Studies 160 in the spring, I think probably, and Bio 110 in the fall, probably gives you just a little bit more flexibility later on. That would be my suggestion. So there is a question in the Q&A about sample screenshots, and I haven't been following the chat. Does someone know what that question refers to? Sample screenshots.
Does that just mean the link to this basically webinar?
It may be. So if you're the student who wrote this in, about the Alex, Katie, this question is actually about the screenshots for taking the Alex test. Can you put the link to that webinar about the Alex test in the chat? Thank you so much.
Yes, I just did.
Okay, perfect. Oh, yes, there it is. I'm looking right at it. Okay. What else? Who do we contact for biology questions? Hey, I better put my info in the chat. Hang on just a moment.
There's also a question about the biology study abroad, and I know, Sharon, you might be typing to answer, but I didn't know if Paulette, you wanted to talk about it at all.
First
Kind
of all,
of like,
is your contact info in the chat, Sharon? Okay, perfect. All right, questions about biology study abroad. Prereqs. So this might be a more general question. So I want to make sure that it gets in the version that we record. There are some study abroad programs on which students can earn upper division course credit for the biology major. And those programs have as prerequisites Bio 110. And Sharon, is it both 201 and 202?
Yes, I believe for bio study abroad programs, because we teach 300 or upper division level bio courses,
right.
You need to fulfill all the same requirements as for a regular upper division bio course. So Bio 110, Bio 201, and 202 plus a math course.
Got it. And that, of course, assumes that you've also done Chem 110, because you wouldn't be able to finish Bio 202.
You have to take Chem 120 in order to get into Bio 202 anyways. So that kind of fulfills out.
That's right. Okay.
So there's a question about, would it be okay to take standard classes for now and next year go with something like physics? Can I ask about that? So that clearly would not be a good idea if you were truly interested in a physics major. For someone else who is interested in another STEM field like biochemistry or biology or things like that, physics is typically not taken as a freshman. It's typically taken as, you know, a junior or something. So if you're interested in STEM where physics is just a requirement, you know, probably, you know, waiting is typically what people do. If you want to be a physics major or an engineer, take physics right away. I hope that answers that question.
Another question that someone has written in is, what are the environmental studies abroad programs? So before answering that question, I'm going to back up a little bit and to say that the very majority of Lewis and Clark overseas programs are not for a particular major. They're open to everyone. These are referred to as general culture programs. And no matter what your major is, you can apply to be accepted and go on one of those trips. There's only a handful of majors that have actually created their own study abroad programs on which their majors can earn credit. And the primary reason for doing that is that it can sometimes be difficult to combine a study abroad program with a STEM major. So that's one of the reasons that some departments have created their own. And also biology has created its own, because there's so much glorious biology out in the world that it seems sad to be a biologist and only sit at a desk in Portland, Oregon, and not go out and see Australia or New Zealand or East Africa. Okay, that said, there has sometimes been an environmental studies summer overseas trip to Japan. It is not a regular offering. It comes and goes, but an environmental studies major is free to take any of the general culture overseas programs that Lewis and Clark offers. The chemistry department also offers an overseas program in Berlin. And I don't think there are any other. And then the language departments all offer specific study abroad programs for language majors. But those are really the only targeted overseas programs. Most of them are general culture, open to everyone.
There are some targeted programs for the humanities, fine arts, theater.
Yes, yes.
Like
Thank you, Nico.
We have two for psychology as well. Sorry.
And I should emphasize that the Berlin program isn't just for chemistry majors. It's a program that chemistry majors can take a course towards chemistry on, but it's also open to all students.
Great, thank you. What else? Can anyone think of anything else they'd like to know?
Can I jump in? One thing I wanted to say about the chemistry, signing up for general chemistry, there are a lot of students signing up for it. So we're very strict about making sure everyone meets the quantitative reasoning requirement. So, I think there was a question about a college level calculus class. So that's different than, like, if you've taken high school calculus, you'll still need to take the ALEX test or to show that you have the quantitative reasoning. So because we have to say, no, take the ALEX test. So if you're thinking of Chem 110, make sure you have your quantitative reasoning ALEX score all in place, or a transfer credit if you're coming in with college level.
Thanks for that clarification. Yeah. And a reminder that the ALEX score that you need to earn to get into general chemistry is 53, correct? And while one of the faculty is answering this question that's just come in, I also want to talk about it because it might be of more general interest to people who watch the recording. The question is anyone allowed to participate in those more focused study abroad programs, even if you're not a major in that area? And the answer, I think, is yes, as long as you've done the prerequisite courses. So sometimes the prerequisites can be an impediment, but if you've taken them, then you're welcome to go. So for example, I've known biology majors who've gone on some of the language focused programs because they've done intensive study of a particular language in addition to their bio major. What else? Anything else? Give just a little bit more time. Oh, I know. A question that might be relevant, given that there have been some questions about biology and environmental studies. It's not always clear what's the difference exactly between being a bio major and being an environmental studies major. And I think the thing to think about is that the biology major is strictly a science major. So bio majors, the requirements for a bio major are all science courses. They're biology courses, they're chemistry courses, they're math courses. Of course, there is a consideration in those courses of some social, political, etc. Angles, but primarily what we're doing in biology is science. Whereas in environmental studies, there is some science, but no more than there is social science and no more than there is humanities. That is, the coursework is spread across the whole range of different fields in the college. So there's not a strong focus on science in particular. Students who are interested in both sometimes will combine a biology or other science major with an environmental studies minor, which gets sort of best of both worlds. Double majoring in those two fields is very difficult because they both require a very large number of courses, but the major and the minor tends to work out quite well. Okay, we've got some more questions trickling in, so I'm going to keep us online while that's still happening. Todd, go for it.
Yeah, so I was just hopping in about the statistics question. The real answer is I'm not completely positive for the ENVS major, although most intro stats classes at LNC are thought of as being essentially equivalent. So if a minor or a major says you can take either Econ 103 or Psych 200, both will work perfectly well. In psychology, we essentially treat them as equivalents.
But I might add that if you take Econ 103, a lot of the examples and the data are going to come from the economics world. And if you take Psych 200, a lot of the examples and the data are going to come from the psychology world. So you'll learn the same concepts, but the way you'll work with them might have a different slant. Anything else? These are all great questions. Well, I think I'm going to end us here so that those of you who are hoping to attend the webinar that's immediately following this one at 4 o'clock will have a little bit of chance to catch your breath and get up and stretch your legs before the next one starts. Thank you everyone for listening and for asking such awesome questions. Remember that there's contact information for all the faculty representatives in the chat, and the recording of this session will be posted on the website in the same place where the webinar was announced, and it should only take a day or two for it to show up there. So you can look at it again before registration on August 1st. Remember to take that ALEX test if you haven't done it yet, and contact any of us with questions if things occur to you after you're finished. Thanks everyone, and thanks to all the faculty for being here to answer your questions today.